Hello Harry Potter fans and welcome to the presentation of my latest work, a complete map expansion of the Hogwarts Castle and Grounds LEGO set. As soon as LEGO announced a microscale version of the Hogwarts Castle, I thought that it was a perfect occasion to create something with it, like a big diorama containing not only the castle, but also the surrounding location that you often see in the movies, such as the Owlery, Hagrid's hut, the Quidditch Pitch, and the wooden bridge. Besides being a die-hard Harry Potter fan, I've developed a pretty good knowledge of the Hogwarts Castle planimetry and its entire map. The microscale was perfect to cover most of the map, so I bought the LEGO set and I slowly started to figure out what the final size should have been. The LEGO set has a depth of 32 studs and a width of 44 studs. My model is basically 4 studs wider and 30 studs deeper, for a final size of 48 by 62 studs. The base was the first thing that I had to change, because it needed more thickness to support the weight of the expanded map, so I made the entire thing 1 plate and 1 brick thicker in its entire extension. I caught also the occasion to integrate the 1x8 printed tile into the front facade of the base to make it more elegant. Now, there is a lot to cover as you can imagine, so let's analyze first the modifications I made to the original set, which is the castle itself. Let's start with the Boathouse. The LEGO set had this part of the castle in a straight position, which is obviously wrong. I've been to the Warner Bros. Studios twice, and on my last visit I caught the opportunity to take some shots of the Hogwarts studio model specifically for this video, so you will be able to actually compare the studio model to my LEGO project. As I said, the Boathouse is placed at an angle compared to the rest of the castle, so I made modifications to the ground on which the Boathouse lays, and added wedge plates to create the canal on which the boats rest when they arrive at Hogwarts. With some minor adjustment to the boathouse itself, it now lays in a 30 degrees position, and the lake now extends inside the boathouse, which looks pretty good. Staying on the low levels, I wanted to add this cave below the Great Hall to add variety to the rocks formation. Going up, there's the already mentioned Great Hall, which has been modified slightly in the position of the clip pieces and the base. Behind instead, I added a cheese slope element to close the gap with the near main tower. I also replaced the Technic brick with 2 spare 1x1 bricks with the printed windows, one facing the front angle of the castle and the other one facing the back. We move now to the middle sides of the 3 courtyards at Hogwarts, which includes personal rooms for the professors and the Ravenclaw and Gryffindor towers, as well as the hospital wing. This part of the castle is the one that has been modified the most. The walls have been changed completely in their look, going for a more sophisticated building solution to achieve the several tiny windows that this courtyard is characterized with. This was created with the use of jumper plates and 1x1 plates stacked together. This side of the courtyard instead is mostly the same, but has been arranged to host the modified suspension bridge. This bridge is hardly seen in the movies, but since LEGO went for a far simpler look, I modified it with hollow brackets and angle hinge plates to create the characteristic inverted arch shape that the suspension strings form to hold the bridge. The front side of the courtyard is mostly untouched, but it has been modified in its position with the use of jumper plates because I slightly changed the perimeter of this courtyard to accommodate the mods and the brand new hospital wing that leads to the also brand new clock tower that we will see later. On the other side of the Great Hall, crossing the viaduct bridge, there's the entrance hall. One thing that annoyed me the most was the fact that these vertical lines were continuous on the original set. Of course I wanted to fix them. The entire east wing and the bell towers were perfectly fine to me, but moving towards the dome greenhouse I noticed that the space between it and the bell towers wasn't enough. It was too cramped. What I did was to widen this wall by 1 stud and move the dome greenhouse consequentially to make more room, and since on the studio model there's a small greenhouse which is missing on the LEGO set, I added it on the LEGO model also. Since we are in this area, I want to point out the brand new rocks formation that I had to include in this model, because as you know, this entire part has strangely been cut off by LEGO. By adding 4 studs to the base, I managed to create a brand new wall section using the same style of the original set. By doing so, the greenhouses could be widened by 1 stud and even have some ground in front of them, conferring more space to this area. The greenhouse's ground then is limited by this wall and this tower assembly that was poorly executed by LEGO in my opinion. It's not seen enough in the movies, but the studio model came in help here to see how exactly this small part is constructed. After many versions of it, I was proud of how it came together, honestly. This is the view from the back. We can now talk about the extra zone that I added to this LEGO set. Here we can find the grounds where the Womping Willow was planted and where Harry and Ron crash with the Fordanglia in the Chamber of Secrets. The Warner Bros. Studio model helped me understand this zone better. The curved wall that defines the borders of the castle grounds should be way larger, but I had to make it more compressed due to the lack of space, unfortunately. The footprint of the entire model would have been too big otherwise. In my model, the wall basically cuts like this. It's worth pointing out that the LEGO at least included this small entrance gate, but I slightly modified its position with the help of the studio model, and now it's in the right spot. I added also a wall next to the gate, and it's well integrated with this big hill, which is the main star of these grounds. This is of course the place where the magnificent Owlery stands out, and I was shocked to see in person how tall this tower is in altitude compared to the rest of the castle. I tried to recreate the height of the hill in my model, but I also had to include a pathway leading to the Owlery. Let's take a proper look at the Owlery itself. I basically created a dark grey rock formation and then I put the Owlery on top of it. I also was careful enough to include some sort of stairs that would lead to the tower itself and that would communicate well with the lower pathway. At the end of the day, the positioning of the Owlery in my model is quite right, to be fair. As seen from a low angle, it really stands out high. Now we can move to the part of the castle that LEGO did include in the set, which is the iconic clock tower. I wanted to create a proper clock tower that could communicate well with the courtyard and the hospital wing, and believe me, achieving this roof shape was incredibly hard. I ordered from Bricklink extra printed tiles of the Gretol and I used them to make the front of the clock tower. One thing that had me thinking a lot was the gap between the clock tower and the courtyard. Before going to the Warner Bros. Studios and seeing that there were basically just rocks in there, I took the inspiration for this part of the castle from the Hogwarts Legacy game, since I was stunned to see that developers made this gap as a long progressive waterfall, and I decided to create something similar for the model, especially because the original model has this river that goes up towards the back. The idea was to continue the path of the river, making it curve and then pass between the clock tower and the courtyard, ending in a progressive waterfall. I also examined the base of the clock tower carefully and it's very tall. The foundations of the clock tower are basically integrated with rock formations, so I went with this sideways assembly to create a progressive passage from the exposed walls of the clock tower to the rock supporting it. For the look of the clock tower courtyard instead, I went for a sort of ruined look, taking inspiration from the source material and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Introduced with the clock tower in the Prisoner of Azkaban, the magnificent wooden bridge is a twisted and long path to the external grounds of Hogwarts. Building this iconic bridge in microscale was quite hard. It's a simple look, but I tried to get the best possible shape for the supports, and I wanted them to be well integrated within the rocks. From this image of the LEGO Digital Studio program, you can see how I created the supports. Thanks to the studio model, I also tried to create a well-shaped ground underneath the bridge, with some vegetation and nicely sculpted hills on the side. On the other side of the wooden bridge, there's another famous location from the Prisoner of Azkaban, which is of course the Stone Circle. In this area I also created a crossroad sections where the path divides into opposite directions. Taking the right path leads you to the Quidditch Pitch. The left one instead will descend to the lands where you can find Hagrid's hut and a small shore. Let's talk first about one of my favorite locations and the thing that I wanted to build properly the most, the Quidditch Pitch. The stadium is located in a lower field behind the tall hill of the Owlery, and when I got to the part I thought, whoa, this is a steep transition to make. I carefully shaped all of this hill, mixing all the dark green slopes together and leaving a flat space in the corner for the Quidditch pitch. To prevent the pitch from being boring to look at, I decided to put it at a 45 degrees angle. I wanted to make the best accurate and detailed field possible for the stadium, and I used alternate plates in the two different green colors to make the two sides of the pitch, and the horizontal white line as a separate piece. So the idea was to form the field with the three pieces laying on the foundations, and I carefully shaped the borders to delete as many gaps as possible. The oval wooden pitch with the Hogwarts South Towers was then realized with dark brown 1x2 round plates connected in the style of a chain, and in this way I was able to give it an oval shape. The wooden oval is put in place and connected with two studs on the opposite sides of the pitch. And to conclude, a white elastic ring is placed in the middle to complete the Quidditch field. A nice detail finally is the addition of the changing room tent. On the opposite side of the stone circle, there's the downhill path towards the Hagrid's hut, a twisty road that Harry, Ron and Hermione had to walk to go find Hagrid. The housekeeper's hut has seen some evolution during the passage from the Chamber of Secrets to the Prisoner of Azkaban, going from a one-room to a two-rooms accommodation. The peculiarity of this hut is that it lays on a small hill, and I wanted to simulate this detail by putting the two grey cones on different levels. In fact, the bigger room lays directly on the ground, and the smaller room is separated from the ground with a dark round plate. Then I added a chimney and a wall of trees beyond the hut. The hut is completed with some pumpkins in different shades of orange and a small stone fence. Next to Hagrid's hut, there's an area where I was quite free to imagine something existing there, like the shore where the sad Hagrid scene takes place in The Prisoner of Azkaban. This shore is also seen in the Goblet of Fire, so I decided to put it there to create a transition between the lake and the grounds where Hagrid's hut is located. It was important to create a passage from the dark waters of the lake to the clear waters of the shore, and I applied transitioning shades of color underneath the clear tiles to make this. The shore then was modeled with curved jumpers and some thick trees built with interesting building solutions. So, I think I covered everything in this model, and I hope you were curious enough to appreciate this presentation until the very end. I finally have my little Hogwarts landscape, completed with the other key locations of the movies, all in one big diorama as I wanted for a long time, and I hope I have inspired you to make something similar with your microscale set too. The studio model in the UK is a stunning piece to witness, and it has helped me a lot with what I didn't know about Hogwarts. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.